Hello, this is the tradesight U.S. stocks and futures market preview and domestic economic data roadmap for the week beginning Monday the 12th of May 2014 and ending Friday the 16th. Hope you had a good trading week. Stocks are pretty flat. We've had some good days and some individual trading, but I wouldn't call this, if you look at the market here, last 5 days, this trading range, I wouldn't say that it was a week where you should have expected to do particularly well. The S&P was held inside of a 25-point or so range for the entire week. We'll look at the intra-week action when we roll to the futures here in a bit. Overall, not overly impressive. We do have a 13 sell signal on the broad market in the futures on the weekly chart, the weekly time frame. Don't forget, and this is the S&P. Here's the weekly right here. But obviously nothing has happened yet. That was only a week ago that we got that signal. So we're only one bar into that. We'll see if it turns into anything. But so far, if you look here, the last 2 months have been fairly flat. We had one little move to the upside in the beginning of April and a move to new lows around tax day for the month, but then right back. And overall, this is 1875 is a key number on not on the cash index, but on the futures. And I'm going to do a separate YouTube about that number. But we've been stuck to that range now for just over 2 months, and so it's not the most exciting market I've ever seen, that's for sure right now. Here's the NASDAQ side. At least it moves a little bit more, not as flat over that same window, and kind of rolling here a bit. So if the S&P sell signal is coming into focus, maybe the NASDAQ is giving us an early indication of it. The SOX was dead flat this week. Look at the bodies of the last 5 candles are basically right on top of each other in terms of price. And the biotechs rolled over just a bit, but not much. Got to bounce back here on Friday. As usual, let's look at some of our key trading stocks that we like to trade. Google was one right here. Didn't do much. Came down a little bit this week. Bounced back on Friday. Apple, lots of rumors floating about them buying Beats Audio, but they also have a stock split coming out. So the stocks went up due to the split, but came back down. Had 4 down days this week, basically, after being up on Monday. Here's a look at Amazon hanging near lows, swept the lows today. Made a little money on a trade call we had on Amazon. Actually, 2 of them this week. Netflix, another one that we like to watch. It's been down recently. You notice that one more, if you get 2 bars down, you'd have a 13 buy signal on the Netflix, something to watch for. Here's a look at Tesla. Had a gap down day here this week. Twitter, this one, we've been talking about this for a long time. How I said at the end of the year, I had a report on Twitter that it was done. It was overvalued because nobody wanted to sell the stock, and there weren't that many shares available, so it ran up just purely because of a lack of supply at the end of the year. Got way overvalued, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if we came back and tested the IPO price, which was 24. We're heading that way now. Came back quite a bit on a gap down this week as the insiders were finally able to start thinking about selling some stock. So that was pretty negative. So overall, that's what we're looking at from the daily charts this week. I also want to show you the volume chart. I like to do this every week now. We did get a bounce this week in volume, thankfully. We had 2 days that were over 2 billion shares, although we had Monday was horrible, 1.4. It was a holiday in the UK, so that played into that. One of the big financial centers being closed, you tend to have less volume. Tuesday and Friday, 1.7 and 1.9 or so, 1.5 billion respectively. That's not bad for Friday. I wouldn't complain about that number, but the Tuesday one certainly wasn't very good. But we did get to 2.3 and then over 2.2 on Tuesday and on Wednesday and Thursday, and those are good volume numbers. It brought the average back up a bit, as I pointed out last week. We like to get over 2 billion shares most days. That's the better trading environment, and you really don't like to see this blue line, which is the moving average, get sucked too far underneath, head down too low. Here's the crude oil, sitting right at $100 basically. Not much to show you here on the chart. And here's a look at gold, working on a potential buy signal in gold. All right, let's go to the intra-week action. We'll start out by looking at the S&P E-mini futures. 1875 is a very important number. We've talked about it many times, and it's basically right here. It was the exact high of Friday, exact high, and we almost closed on it. But we touched it so many times Thursday, the open, and later played with it. Wednesday got there for the close, literally closed at the 1875 level. Tuesday played with it as the high of the day. Monday played right through the area. So it's a very key number. Also notice this. This was over to the far left side of your screen. This was the last few hours of, or the last hour or so of last Friday, the prior week. So Monday we gapped down and rallied up, filled the gap, and then went flat. Tuesday gapped down, didn't quite fill the gap, closed negative. Wednesday gapped up, sold off sharply, which was an opportunity for us, filled that gap, and then came back up and actually rallied to within a couple of ticks of filling the gap from Tuesday morning. Thursday, basically a little gap down that filled very quickly and then filled that gap from Tuesday, rallied and then rolled over back to the downside. Rich caught a nice FSLR trade, among others, on that downward move on Thursday, so that was nice. Friday opened almost flat, came back up over lunch to fill the one tick gap. And the thing is, at the end of the day, we closed last week at 1874, just over 1874 and a half. We closed this week at 1873.75. So we lost less than a point for the whole week net, and the range high to low, that's actually about 28 points, almost 30, which is not great. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ futures, see if they did anything significantly different, and of course the answer is not really. They did fill their Monday gap right out of the gate. They did lose a little more like 25 points for the week. Tuesday was a flat opening, no gap, and then rolled to the downside. Wednesday, the little gap up and dropped down sharply, and then came back and recovered. Thursday, gap down and shot up, and then rolled back over. Friday, gap down, filled it about an hour in, and bounced. I should also point out that if you go back to that S&P chart, and you go to the 5-minute on that, we had the low of the day on Friday was the Comer 13 buy signal right here, right early on. So things looked pretty bleak, and we were heading lower. We cracking yesterday's lows. I had a couple short calls. I was looking at Baidu and a couple things that never triggered, but we ended up with this buy signal I pointed out, and sure enough, that became the low of the week on the ES. All right, so what can we expect in the week ahead? What's the major factors that we need to be looking at? First of all, before you look at any of the data itself, what's coming out, you should know that it is options expiration week. It's a single expiration, not triple, which usually means that, since we don't have a holiday this time like we did last month, Wednesday is the most likely day for the options unraveling move. Now, the market's been so flat for the last few weeks. Is there really anything to unravel in either direction? And it's very possible that there won't be. It seems like things are pretty balanced for whatever reason right now. But nevertheless, we stay alert to that. So Wednesday after the first hour's play, we'll be looking. And we'll still look the same Tuesday after the first hour. And if we don't get it Wednesday, we'll look after on Thursday. Basically, you're looking for movement to start after the first hour and for volume to hold up. That would be your unraveling move. And then Friday, of course, is expiration, which means Friday is most likely going to be a flat day. So what are the actual numbers coming out this week? At 2 p.m. on Monday afternoon, we've got the Treasury budget number, expecting a surplus there. Retail sales and import-export prices and business inventories Tuesday morning. They can move the market a bit, but not overly important. MBA mortgage index and the PPI on Wednesday, and then crude oil inventories. Thursday is the bigger one, initial and continuing jobless claims. That's the weekly data. And then the CPI, which is an important number. Empire Manufacturing Index, net long-term tick flows, industrial production and capacity utilization, and we're still not even open yet. That's all pre-market. And then 30 minutes in, Philly Fed and the Housing Market Index, and an hour in natty gas. So that's a busy morning there Thursday. And again, with options, if we don't get the options unraveling move on Wednesday, with all that data, maybe it happens Thursday, we could have a lot of excitement. Between Wednesday and Thursday, I think we could have a lot of excitement this week. You know, obviously Monday's questionable, Tuesday could be all right. But if you're going to focus on something, it's got to be Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, you've got the housing starts and building permits before the market, and the first look at Michigan sentiment for the month, a little bit into the market, and expiration, as I talked about. So I wouldn't expect a lot Friday. That's what we're looking at. You know, it may take past this options expiration and a new options round for us to really start moving this market, because obviously there's nothing here that suggests that anything's going to happen either way, other than that 13 seeker sell signal on the broad market, the S&P weekly chart that happened last week. That gives us a little more negative bias than anything. But other than that, we will be trading it from the tape as we usually do, looking for the best we can find for you guys, and we'll see you in the lab. Have a great week.